Is your freedom of speech being silently eroded by algorithms? Do you still believe you're free to say what you think? Or has your voice been filtered before you even speak? Censorship in the 21st century doesn't come with chains. It doesn't gag you by force. It silences you. Without you even realizing it, you open your phone feeling free to express yourself, but every word, every thought, every opinion is analyzed, ranked, scored. AI decides what deserves to be seen, and what will disappear into digital oblivion. Adorno warned us, true power doesn't forbid. It shapes your perception until you censor yourself. Modern control is invisible. Its algorithm, its filter, its shadow ban. They don't need to tell you what you can't say. They just bury your voice in a feed no one will ever see, and the darkest part, you adapt. You start to think about what you can or can't say. You adjust your tone, your topics, your emotions to avoid punishment. Freedom of speech has become a performance, an illusion carefully maintained so you believe you're in control. The brutal question is this: are you truly free to think? Or are you just an actor playing a pre-approved script? Is your freedom of speech being silently eroded by algorithms? You think you're saying what you want, but it's the algorithm that decides what gets heard. Social media promised to free voices, to give everyone a platform. But what happens when AI decides what is safe, acceptable, within guidelines? Who sets the limits of acceptability? Who profits from silence? Adorno and Horkheimer warned us. The culture industry creates an illusion of choice, but in the end, everything is standardized, domesticated, controlled. Today, control is not explicit. It's mathematical. It's the invisible code that regulates your words, your ideas, your emotions. They call it content moderation. But in reality, it's thought filtering. It's social engineering disguised as protection. It's censorship dressed up as care. You think you're being shielded from harmful content, but what is harmful? An unpopular opinion? A question about the system? A thought that challenges comfort? The paradox is brutal. The promise of freedom became a tool of control. You can speak, but only within what they allow. You can post, but only if it doesn't hurt the algorithm. You can disagree, but only in ways that don't threaten the system. The question is clear. If your voice needs approval from a machine, is it really yours? Is your freedom of speech being silently eroded by algorithms? Here's the darkest part. You don't even notice. Invisible censorship is the most effective weapon of the 21st century. It doesn't forbid you by force. It erases you without a trace. It makes you believe the problem is you, your voice, your opinion, your courage. Shadow bans, demonetization, comment suppression. These are the invisible chains of the digital age. And the worst part, when you realize your post isn't getting seen, you start asking yourself, can I talk about this? Should I post this? Maybe I shouldn't, to avoid penalties. That's how self-censorship is born. You adjust your thoughts to please the algorithm. You don't say what you feel because you know it won't be shown. You become a reflection of what the system allows. Adorno warned us, the greatest danger is not being silenced by force. It's silencing yourself. Free thought doesn't die with bullets. It dies with clicks, with every sentence you hold back, with every truth you hide, with every fear that keeps you from being honest. The system knows. If you self-censor, they don't need to censor you, and the brutal question remains. How many of your words have died before they were ever spoken? Is your freedom of speech being silently eroded by algorithms? Now the question is, will you stay silent, or will you choose to be the noise in the system? Reframing freedom means realizing it was never a gift. It's a choice, and every choice has a cost. The courage to speak is the willingness to risk being silenced. It's saying what needs to be said, knowing the algorithm may bury your voice. It's looking at the feed and thinking, this isn't freedom, this is a bubble. I don't want to be just another reflection of the machine. The real power lies in asking the questions no one else dares to ask. Why is this information promoted and that one buried? Who decides what's acceptable? Who profits when I silence myself? Who gains from my obedience? The system wants you to doubt yourself, not it. It wants you to adjust your message, not theirs. It wants you to think twice before speaking, but never think about who controls the conversation. But what if, instead of staying silent, you questioned? What if, instead of softening your words, you challenged the control? What if, instead of adapting, you disrupted? The system fears those who think, because those who think can teach others to think. Here's the question that remains. Are you here to please or to awaken? Is your freedom of speech being silently eroded by algorithms? Here's the brutal truth. They're counting on your surrender. They're counting on you to get tired of speaking, to prefer adapting over being ignored. But freedom isn't comfortable. Freedom requires resilience. It means being the outlier. It means writing what needs to be written even if no one reads it. Saying what needs to be said, even if the reach is zero. Being the glitch in the system. Dark resilience means knowing the system will try to silence you. It will bury you in shadow bans, hide your posts, shrink your reach, label you as problematic, non-compliant, out of line. And yet, you speak, you share, you write. Because silence is what they want, and words are what they fear. The act of rebellion begins the moment you say, I will not adapt to the algorithm. I will follow the truth. The code of freedom is simple. Think what no one else dares to think. Speak what no one else dares to say. Question what no one else dares to question. They have the algorithm. But you have the voice. And if your voice can't be measured or controlled, it becomes the system's greatest threat. Is your freedom of speech being silently eroded by algorithms? Now you know. Censorship in the future isn't a wall. It's a filter. It doesn't forbid you. It buries you. You think you're speaking, but you're shouting into a vacuum carefully designed to ignore you. You think you're expressing yourself, but you're just playing a role in a script written for you. And the darkest part? You start to get used to it. You start to accept the unspoken rules. You start to think, maybe I shouldn't post this. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe it's safer to stay quiet. But silence is the system's victory. Doubt is the beginning of freedom. Resistance begins the moment you choose to speak. Even when you know you might not be heard, write in the comments, my voice will not be programmed. That's your first break from invisible control. Adorno said it best. Those who do not want to think will end up being thought. The final question is brutal. Will you be molded, or will you mold your own mind? Will you be silenced, or be the voice they can't erase? The choice is yours, and it starts now.